So as Sunil was mentioning, I think this is fine. Yeah,
Okay.
this better. Cool. So I mean, he has a very impressive story, but I'll give you a perspective from a different lens. And my career always has been in the services industry, as the host was saying, with TCS, with Wipro, and now HCL Tech, that is there. So from a value generation perspective, what does it mean for the customers, how it has changed when we go to the customers, and all these companies play in the large and the very large enterprise space. So we are essentially talking about B2B, and we are talking about how all of these companies, essentially not exactly only HCL Tech, but also Wipro, TCS, Infosys, how all of them are actually going. This is more of a industry-wide view that I'm looking at. So there are three lenses that I have used. I have only 3 slides. And the first lens is more from an IT perspective or the technology perspective that is there. The first one, of course, is how the technology has matured over a period of time. I have not put a timeline here because, of course, there are overlaps and all of that, right? But how IT matured in terms of going from a cost center to a value center, that is there. There were niche skills, like mainframe was a very niche skill, but now you see a lot of skills at scale being there, and that's something that the customers want on that. From a cost-based value perspective, the way procurement used to happen was more on cost-based, but now it's more QCBS, there's quality, technology, all of it coming in. There was limited data generation, but we saw a lot of data proliferation happening, and that data essentially is one of the strong pillars where customers are actually working on, right? Now, let's look at today and the future. These are the 2 things which are essentially driving the technology space: the cloud and the digital, and then the transformative technologies like the AI, ML, Gen AI, all of that piece, right? The fancy technologies, as Sunil mentioned, on that piece. So how did it change from a technology lens? A lot of consumption-based models that came in for customers. So you go to any customer, large, some of them Sunil mentioned, those names we also kind of look at. You go to them, they're looking at consumption-based models. They're essentially looking at how do I consume this technology and different pricing models attached to it, maybe a percentage linked, automation linked, all of those models. There are lower entry barriers. Sunil mentioned about them, AI, ML, any technology. Essentially what cloud did was it democratized all the technology. You can actually swipe out a card and start using the cloud technology, its services at a go. This was not there about 20 years back, right? Then end-to-end vertical solutions. Customers are looking for end-to-end solutions. They are not looking for piecemeal 40, 30 components to be taken and then integrated. That is what they expect from a services company in terms of value. Any services company for that matter. Outcome-based value against SLAs. Outcome-based means that the business that they are running, how is it impacting? And how can we look at increasing that? That's where we are looking at outcomes. Customer centricity and predictive and real time. These are the things where we are working on to make it more and more predictive and real time in terms of, let's say, autonomous vehicles, all of you have looked upon and all of that. And all of this requires an ecosystem based and a cross-skilled based approach. So earlier you used to have a single skilled individual. Now you need to have an E-shaped individual, where he or she has a broad set of, I would say, understanding, and then deep into 2 or 3 technologies is how we are looking at, right? Now this is from an IT perspective how we are looking at. Now let's go and look at it from a core customer perspective. So from a customer lens, if you look at it, there are 3 things that they are grappling with. They are grappling with complexity. They've got people. They have to manage the people. They have to look at cross-skilling, upskilling, all of that. They don't get the people. It's a big problem. And that is where services companies kind of come in. Processes, technology, tools, they have done decades of investment. And trust me, it is so complex that when we go there and look at it, I mean, it's hard to look at how do you actually simplify. Simplification itself is a big business when you look at services companies, right? Then the uncertainty that comes in, right? Macroeconomic, talent retention, all of that, regulations are there. You look at Europe from a sustainability perspective, all the new regulations are coming in from sustainability. That's going to impact the entire value chain that is there of how they operate actually. Disruption, when I said technology lowered the barriers or actually removed the barriers, you had internal players becoming strong in any vertical, the external players coming in, but there were non-vertical players also who came in, and started disrupting the entire thing on that. So services companies help them to bridge that gap. The two things that the customers are now looking for is agility and market relevance, essentially. And then how do they look at the business growth part of it, right? Now these two, when I combine, now I can look at the services approach in terms of how and what the services lens are. This is how we look at creating value for our customers. The first one, of course, is how do you move from cost to an outcome-based models. As there is anything as a service that is there. There are utility models, consumption models, pay-as-you-go models that are there on that. And by the way, this is something that any B school graduate has to go through when he or she joins any large services organization, right? And that is where I think a lot of gap also exists that is there on how to comprehend all of that, right? How do you look at the resource optimizations that are there? What is the right mix and choice? When I said complexity, complexity is something you have to help customers with in terms of so many tools, AWS, Azure, GCP, Dell, Cisco, everyone churning out so many solutions. How do you help them actually choose one of them, right? What is the right mix for them on that piece that is there? The co-creation and the GTMs. This is again from a business standpoint is very, very important. Any B school graduate, I also went in when I went and joined after my MBA. There were new terms for me. What does a GTM, go-to-market means? How do you actually build it? How do you look at it? From a co-creation and GTM perspective, today what we are seeing is a tripartite kind of a thing. We've got the services companies at one place. You've got the hyperscalers and the OEMs like Dell, Cisco, all of them at one place, and then the customer also coming in and playing a part in terms of the co-creation journey that is there. So how do you look at skills at scale? Yeah. How do you look at the solutions, accelerators being developed, and how do you combine the three in an ecosystem-based approach becomes very, very important for us, and the customer is actually looking for it. And this is actually a basis where customers actually select us. The faster assimilation. So many technologies, so many things happening. How do you actually get them faster into the system becomes very, very important. Differentiated standardization. Now, AWS, Azure, GCP, all of them are giving the same technology to everyone. Companies in the same vertical, different verticals as well. How they consume the technology makes all the difference. That consumption is something which services companies are helping the customers do essentially on that and may help them differentiate. So how do you standardize the solutions for a company, for an environment that they operate in, and then how do you look at helping them differentiate in the market that is there? Then all the new roles and the skills that are there. So GenAI is there, sustainability is there. One thing is to develop solutions on them, but the other thing is actually to create business out of it. So how do you look at the governance part of it? How do you look at from a financial optimization perspective? All of those are the skills that are required from any business guy today. This is on the first mover differentiated marketing. I firmly believe that B2B services marketing is something which requires a lot of work to be done from when we are teaching our students. How do you combine the three stakeholders, look at multi-party stakes and combine that one message, take it to the customer becomes very, very important typically. How do you look at tangible versus intangible ROI options? How do you look at the thought leadership in an organization? For services companies, these are very, very important. Customers, very, very large customers typically look at thought leadership from services companies, and it becomes a basis at times of engaging them as well. The last one is relevant innovation. So innovation, everybody is developing something, right? But not everything is going big, right? So how do you look at innovation being relevant for the customer is very, very important. So how do you look at the culture piece of it? How do you scale those investments process? How do you help the customers actually utilize your resources like labs, like SMEs, all of that, how do you engage the customer becomes very important. Otherwise, the renewal is never going to happen, right? And then how do you look at the governance and the regulations that are changing to make sure that you are making that innovation relevant for the customer to operate the environment that they operate in, right? So these are some of the things. That is how, from a services lens, we see or the customer sees us in terms of creating value, engaging us, or we engage the customers and make sure that they are successful in their business objectives. They are able to focus on their core business is what we are looking at. This is all from my side. Thank you.